Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to know about how we're helping other accredited investors keep more of their income, go to firstgencp.com/going long.
There is this mantra out there that you should invest in your backyard or a place that you have lived or know very, very well. And to some degree, that makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, you want to understand the market and the forces and the neighborhoods and all of those benefits that come along. But they're not insurmountable challenges. Everybody you speak to will say multifamily is a team sport. It's a team sport. And, use your team.
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And guess who I am? Yep, I'm your host, Billy Keels, and I am really, really looking forward to you checking out today's conversation because it's another one of these really, really awesome ones. So, and also just very quickly, because we're going to get right into the conversation. I've been seeing a lot of people continue to take snapshots and screenshots and sharing across social media and LinkedIn and Instagram. If you're one of those people, thank you so very much. And if you've been thinking about doing it, go ahead. It's what everybody else is doing nowadays. So take a screenshot, share the love. It helps to bring people to the Going Long podcast and helps to grow our Going Long podcast family. So thank you for that. And also, we really, really appreciate the honest written reviews as well as ratings. If you haven't done that yet, go ahead and do that. It helps us to continue to bring awesome guests to you that also give you more of what you need. And then lastly, I know everybody wants to check out all the previous episodes. Go to firstgencp.com/podcasts and you can find every single one from there. So I know also let's jump into today's conversation because we want to get there quickly. If you are thinking about how you can add not only land, but also multifamily investing and doing that through syndication or understanding about how to do it actively, today's guest is really going to be able to give you insights. Came from the corporate world, decided to really find his life's purpose and live his best life. Now he and his wife are doing that today. You're going to get amazing insights from how you can build a lifestyle through investing in hard assets, doing that from any place in the world or that you like. And today's conversation with Mike Deaton is going to give you more of what you need. And we're going to get to that just after this. Are you a busy, high-paid professional? Someone that in the previous 2 years has earned $200,000 and is expected to earn $200,000 this year? Or maybe if you filed jointly, previously you've earned $300,000 the previous 2 years and you're also expected to do that this year. Or maybe if not, either individually or jointly, you have $1 million in net worth, not including your primary residence. If you meet any of these criteria, then you're someone that the IRS considers to be an accredited investor. That probably means you're someone like an enterprise software sales executive. You may be an executive in a major corporation. You may be a doctor. You may be a lawyer, maybe a high-paid consultant. You may even work for a major sports franchise. The thing I know you have in common is that you continue to do the hard work. Like you're doing 100% of the work and you're only bringing home 50% of the reward because you continue to get crushed by your income taxes. If you are tired of this situation and you're looking for a new solution, then go to firstgencp.com/going long. When you get there, that's going to help you to start the journey so that you can begin to take back control of your taxes, take control of your time. And then also that means you're going to be able to spend more of the time that you want with the people that you love the most. And that is the way that you're going to get the personal freedom that you're looking for. So if you're looking to take back control, go ahead and go to firstgencp.com/going long and see how we can help you today. So, you know what? If you've ever wanted to know how investing in multifamily can help you to find your life's purpose and do that in a long distance fashion, then guess what? Today's the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word. You know why? Wow, I'm really excited about today's conversation because today's guest not only started his early professional career in the telco sector. Well, I spent a lot of time in IT, and telco and IT have a lot to do with one another. I want to hear about that. He also spent time in logistics as well as supply chain areas. He's also a professional coach. I believe that's right. And if not, he can correct me. And then he is also the co-founder as well as president of Deaton Equity Partners. It gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation, Mr. Mike Deaton. Mike, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Billy. Happy to be here, man.
Hey man, I'm really, really happy to be here, and hopefully you'll keep me honest on the stuff I was talking about. If I messed up anything, I'll just let everybody know. Okay, all right, cool. So listen, Mike, here's one of the things. We love to be able to get to know more about you, and we're gonna like to ask a lot of questions. And we already talked about this. You're gonna get 5 questions. You're gonna get 2 in the beginning. You're gonna get 3 in the end. Actually, you're going to get more than 5 questions because you're going to get a lot in the middle. I just don't know what those questions are yet. So let's start with number 1 and help the Going Long family understand, where is it that you live in the U.S.?
Yeah, so I have the great fortune of living in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado. So it was a vision board item that my wife and I, put up there about 4 or 5 years ago. We left the corporate world, moved to Colorado. We're trying to figure out where exactly we wanted to put roots down. And then we're coming up on a year, but last year in November, we were able to buy a house here in the mountains. We live specifically in Colorado. I don't know, most people might be familiar with Pikes Peak, which is just right outside of Colorado Springs. We live about 20 minutes west, up in the mountains. Our front porch, we see Pikes Peak right out the front porch. And we're at about 10,000 feet elevation, and just in the middle of pine trees and aspens. And it's our little Shangri-La up here that we rarely, we hate to leave. So it's great.
Yeah, so it doesn't sound like you like nice views or clean weather at all, right? Yeah. Well, congratulations for making these vision board, dream board items become a reality. That's something that is
amazing.
We can learn a lot from that. I'm sure you're going to dive more into that. Help us, because I want people to get to know you so much. But help us understand, what is the most positive? This is question number 2. Most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Yeah, well, yesterday was was Labor Day here in the U.S., so holiday, and my wife and I got to spend it all day together, outdoors, and just, for us, that's one of our highest values, is just time together. And so to be able to do that, we unplugged from work, really didn't check into emails or anything like that. So, man, just recharging in that way, right? To be able to do that kind of stuff.
The great part is, it sounds like your life is pretty much like that all the time anyway. Almost like you don't even need to have any kind of vacation. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, not too secret, but yes, that is, we have designed our life to be as much like that as we can.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And also appreciating that. Fantastic. So listen, Mike, here's the thing. The Going Long family knows this about me. I tend to set a really, really high bar. Excellence kind of thing. Sometimes it takes me to the realm of not even being able to do things that are realistic, trying to tell your entire backstory in 2.5 seconds. I knew it was impossible, but I still got to try it, right? This is because that's part of what people are coming back and listening for. Yeah. So forgive me for trying to do something so absurd as tell your entire backstory in 2.5 seconds. But if you could help me, that would be really, really helpful. If you could actually tell your backstory in your own words, and you can use a lot more than 2.5 seconds, so we get a chance to know you. And the one thing I would ask, Mike, is along the way, if you could help us also with some of the different decisions that you had to make along the way to get to where you are now, and then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, I'll go way back. I was born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. And pretty standard middle class upbringing. My mom was a teacher. Dad was an entrepreneur. He was in home building most of my childhood. Early days, we flipped houses before flipping was really cool. We would buy a home, fix it up, or they would buy a home, fix it up. I was just along for the ride. But I kind of got grooved into this. I think at least what I perceive the normal American way of life being I went to school. My parents pushed me to get good grades. There was pretty much no other option beyond high school than to go to university. I had in mind that I wanted to do some type of a vocation of sorts. Medicine came to mind. I went to school to be a doctor, and about 3 years into university, I decided it really wasn't resonating with me. It just was going to be a long-term educational pursuit, and I was ready to get out in the workforce. And so graduated university with a biology degree. Didn't really have a whole lot of options of what I thought I could do with that. But I found my way into manufacturing and high tech. Started with Motorola when Motorola was kind of king of the world of, it was pagers back then. But, I worked in a factory. And it was a big playground. The management there was pretty cool in letting us do really whatever we wanted to do. We had a ton of support. Motorola was a really good company in terms of teaching leadership skills, as well as manufacturing skills, Six Sigma, TQM quality practices, a lot of those. So I got a really great foundation. I switched gears to Nokia when Nokia mobile phones was king of the mobile phone space, and very similar company culture, very people-centric, leadership focused. I got a lot of development. Was pretty much had the latitude to do whatever I wanted to in terms of job. I could take a bunch of different jobs because the growth was just tremendous at that time. When I was at Nokia, I had the opportunity to take an expat contract in Romania. We were starting a factory there. So personal life conditions really opened that up for me. I was in a previous marriage that was falling apart, largely because of just too much work, not enough life balance. But I was going through a divorce at the time and had this opportunity opened, and it was probably something I would not have normally taken, having a wife and 2 kids, being US based and feeling that I was somehow kind of rooted in place. But I took an opportunity that life presented to me at the moment and said yes. And so I went over, and it was an amazing experience. I mean, it was just a totally new culture and environment. It was also a high growth opportunity in that we were starting a factory and hiring thousands of people and doing something really transformative for the community that we were building this factory in. And another personal opportunity came. I met my now wife there. She's Romanian, and literally, I think the first weekend that I arrived in Romania, we met. She also worked for Nokia at the time, and we just fell in love immediately, and or at least we fell in interest immediately, and it kind of it obviously transpired into that. But I was there for 3 years, formed some amazing friendships. And then we came back in 2010 to the U.S. and in 2000, and so as part of that transition, Microsoft purchased the handset division of Nokia, and I became a Microsoft employee. And had a totally different shift in company culture. It was just, I was traveling 2 or 3 weeks out of the year. It was very much, what have you done for me lately? Kind of a company culture to progress within Microsoft. They're based in the Northwest in Washington State, and so really any type of growth in the company was going to come by moving to headquarters there, and this was pre-COVID. But just in 2016, for a few different reasons, found myself out of work. Got on the layoff list, and at that same time, my wife also, her company closed up their operations in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and were consolidating to their headquarters in Arkansas. And so we both found ourselves out of work. And, the immediate visceral response was, crap, I got to get, my resume in front of people. I got to start interviewing, get the money flowing back in. And it was really a gut-wrenching time. One, just interviewing for different jobs is a process in and of itself. But, my fears were, what kind of company culture am I going to step into? Am I going to have to relocate? Am I going to get myself into another job where I'm just traveling and grinding it out and working? And, my personality is I'm an all-in type of person. And so when I'm working for someone, I'm all in working for them and kind of giving everything I can. And then we can get into a little bit more, but we took that moment to both kind of step back and reflect and think, what is it that we really want out of life? We had means at our disposal. We had money in the bank, got a buyout in terms of a layoff, a severance package. And so we had a little bit of a runway in front of us, and we had the flexibility to be able to think about something different. I have two daughters from my previous marriage. They were entering college years, already had some money set aside for that, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
And so we empty nested in a way. And so we also had that. And so again, another instance where life presented an opportunity, and we took a moment to reflect and to step into a path that we wanted to take more consciously, rather than just stepping back onto a W-2 grind. And real estate was that pursuit for us. We had been listening to podcasts about different people's journeys and what are they doing. And I had heard two different people that were doing land investing. They were buying and selling vacant land. It's really just a buy low, sell high model. Mm-hmm. And as part of that, you can build up a cash flow stream by owner financing. And so I had, before I got laid off, bought a toolkit of sorts to teach you how to do it, and just hadn't looked at it because I've been so busy working. And so we just decided, we said, let's give this thing a go. We'll give ourselves, 6 or 12 months, some seed money to get started. And we jumped in, and we built that into a successful business over about 3 years. We're able to, get back to black and not only be able to pay our living expenses, but then have extra money. And once we started making a decent income from that, well, the tax bill came. And so there really aren't much tax advantages in a flipping model. And so we decided to get into commercial real estate to diversify our income stream, as well as get some tax benefits and keep more money in our pocket. And so that led us into multifamily, which is what Deaton Equity Partners does today. It's we focus on multifamily. We're not exclusive to multifamily, but that's what we're focused on now, and just understanding the business model to a certain depth. And then, if the market conditions change and there are other commercial real estate industries or niches that we want to get into, we'll kind of look at that. But multifamily for now is kind of where we are. So we balance the two. We still do land; it's near and dear to our hearts. We still do multifamily, and the two marry perfectly together, really, in terms of land is a little more. I would say some smaller scale investments. It's hard to deploy hundreds of thousands of dollars in land unless you have a really big machine that's working. Multifamily affords us that opportunity to leverage, larger chunks of investments, but to also get the tax breaks. And so it's really been great for us. It brought us here to Colorado. We work from home. We work together. Just a lot of things going forward. And I do a little coaching, as you mentioned, as well. It's not, coaching's, it's actually a passion of mine. It's something I just love being able to help people, whether it's in their personal lives or in real estate. I don't do a whole lot of it because it's a large time commit to be able to do it and do it well. It's kind of back in the trading time for money type thing, unless you're doing it at a large scale or there's ways around it, but I really like the one-on-one aspect of kind of digging and helping people. But yeah, that's A to Z nutshell from kind of where I am now. And it's been great.
Yeah. And there's a number of different things to be able to take a look back, like from where you were to where you are now, lots of different real life things that happened and things that one of the things I loved that you were saying as you told the story, and whether that was, having an entrepreneurial father and a mom who was a teacher, or, to the point where you had at the end of a relationship. And I think a lot of people that are in large corporate roles can understand that, because there are lots and lots of days of travel. And sometimes they're overnights, and sometimes there's just, you're up early in the morning, you're waking everybody up, and then you're late back home at night, and all these kinds of things. But the way that you have reflected on that, and I hope that everyone here in the Going Long family heard, because you talked about the end of the marriage and being, life presented you with an opportunity. you also talked about when some people would say, I got laid off and I'm going right into the next thing, and I've got to get my resume, my CV or whatever. And you said the same thing. Life presented you with an opportunity. And I think so much has to do with mindset. You talk about another thing, right? When we initially started even the podcast, we talked a lot about multifamily investing and real estate investing. And now we talk about so many different things, because when you get started, you may see that land was the thing. And then you understand multifamily, and maybe you get into a space where it's energy. You're from Texas, and that's a different thing. And you may be into other types of assets that could also help you get to your destination, your investing destination, whatever that may be. But what we're seeing is a pattern of actually taking action. But what I'd love for you to talk maybe and expand on a little bit more is that whole concept of life presented you with an opportunity, which really ties to me into the mindset, and how you have been able to cultivate that type of a mindset, and how that's actually helping you derive results for yourself and also for others.
Yeah, and it is something that I have reflected a lot on, and I try to help, and I think coaching and I've always been, I say always, as a older teen, I got interested in personal development, and it wasn't really a concept of mindset back then, but it was the power of your mind and the language you speak and the words you speak. But yeah, I can't say, from a young age, but I do know once I started working, I've always had a longer view or a bigger picture mentality. I like to see the big picture and where things are going. It helps me understand the why. It really helps me perform at a better level. So I can, there are many instances in my work career where I could see where things were heading and was able to position myself. Typically, it was a little more defensively. Like I could see that in manufacturing, offshoring was a movement, and that the costs of doing things in the U.S. were prohibitive to long-term success. And so I would look for opportunities to, keep my job, and whether that involved taking more of a global role or something that was not contingent on being in a setting. And so I think a lot of times that my personality is such that I like to know a breadth of things rather than be a specialist in one thing. I really enjoy just learning in general, but about a broad range of things. And so that does help me see a bigger picture. But yeah, to your point, I think life is staying flexible and adapting to what comes out of situations, right? You can certainly choose to kind of go down in a hole and be a victim, and or just seize the moment and take what life presents. I mean, I've always been a person that has almost 100% accountability. Like I'm on the extreme of life is totally within my control, and I can adapt to almost anything. And so that has helped me take what can be seen as obstacles or challenges and transfer those into opportunities. The flip side of that, however, is I have always been someone, I'm a first child, and I think as a result of that, I have this, need for success driven into me. Like you've got to get good grades, you've got to perform in sports, you've got to perform in your job. Failure was a very real and present threat for me. And later in life, I have really taken that concept and tried to flip it to where I'm more embracing of failure. I don't even like the word failure so much in that it's really just about growth and experience and feedback. What is life giving you, and how do you adapt to that? And that's been a journey of mine that I've had to overcome a little bit. And that helps me feed into some of these things where, I do see divorce as a big failure in being able to keep a relationship healthy and nurture and things like that. But I have taken that into my current relationship, and I'm a much better husband, and I hope I'm a much better father to my daughters. And I try to really just take those learnings and apply them forward. And it's the same whether it's in entrepreneurship or in the corporate world or in personal life. There's a lesson to be learned always, and so it's just looking for what that is for you and applying that forward.
Yeah, and as you have that introspective moment, and then you're able to find and recognize the lessons to learn and then pay those forward. I think it is one of the things that so many of us who have been in large corporate roles can relate to once again, right? And rather than saying, why did all this stuff happen to me? It's really like, okay, well, why am I being presented with this opportunity? How can I make the most of this? And when it's really interesting, Mike, because you start seeing also a lot of the success that starts to happen outside of corporate life is really based on the mindset and how you perceive a situation, and then the different decisions and actions that you take based on the context, right? And typically when you see that larger, you have lots of exposure and lots of experience versus necessarily going really deep on something, it also can help you to put things in the proper perspective. I'll also share something. The entire Going Long family knows this, but I am a recovering perfectionist. So a lot of the things that you were talking about before, when it's like, hey, I got a good grade in school and everybody patted me on the back and that was great. And I got that whole thing my whole life. But then in real life, yes, you create the right framework, but when things don't go well, it's not that they were a failure. This was just the next step on in terms of getting to whatever the destination is. So when you said that, I could really relate. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been through that myself. And probably half of the Going Long family was thinking the exact same thing. Yeah. Trusting that you're enjoying today's conversation. And you know what? If you're tired of getting crushed by taxes and you're looking for greater freedom to be able to choose what you want to do when you want to do it, make sure that you go to firstgencp.com/going long and see how we can help you today. Let's get back to the conversation. This is one of the things that, I've lived in Europe for over 10 years or over 2 decades now, which is pretty amazing. Yeah, I came over here. It wasn't even a 3-year. I was supposed to be on a 1-year sabbatical, Mike, and I've been here for 21 years, a little bit over that. But one of the things that happened is for over a decade, I was living in Europe and I was investing exclusively in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I kept hearing people say, wow, you can't do that. Or most of the books that I read were like, you got to live where you invest and be a landlord and all this kind of stuff. And so that was the genesis, right, of this show. It's transformed, it's in the phase of transforming. But I always come back to this central question, right, is I know that I was doing something that was considered to be very contrarian, and it provided me with results that after, a number of years in my corporate job, I don't ever plan on going back to corporate because I was taking action and I was acting in a contrarian, quote unquote, way. I'm always curious because I know you have a very similar philosophy in terms of what in the world gave you the audacity to say, hang on a second, I'm going to look at this long distance investing thing. I don't actually need to live in the same place as the assets that I own because it scares so many people. How did you find, how did you even get to that point?
Yeah, it was, not entirely conscious in that way. It was just really through stepping into real estate. And in the land investing side of things, you literally don't need to have ever set foot on the property. You can just, there's so many tools available nowadays as well in terms of Google Earth and imaging. And there's even, you can contract people to do things if you need them to do it, whether in the land business, there are people that will go out and take photos of properties or put their boots on the ground, to coin a phrase. It's the same as there is in multifamily, right? You have teams of people that are professionals that will go do due diligence. And I highly encourage it. If you're investing in $1 million+ asset, that you have a professional go do it. I mean, I could probably find some things in due diligence, but I'm not going to do the depth of the job that somebody else is going to do. Same as in legal and all this other stuff. And so there's so many resources. But yeah, when we started our venture into multifamily, we started educating. And so we read a lot of books. We were attending workshops. And there is this mantra out there that you should invest in your backyard. or a place that you have lived or know very, very well. And to some degree, that makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, you want to understand the market and the forces and the economy and the neighborhoods and all of those benefits that come along. But they're not insurmountable challenges. Like I said, there's multifamily. Everybody you speak to will say multifamily is a team sport. It's a team sport. And, use your team. And so I have partners where I have invested in a lot of our investments are in Texas just because I like it. I'm from there. I understand it, but also it's a great growth state. There's a lot of people moving to Texas. There's a lot of companies moving to Texas. There's a lot of market forces that are just, green lights for rental properties. But at the same time, I partner with people that are local to the market. Now, part of that's just because I know people that live in Texas and that's where my network is. But it's also the ability of people to go and visit a property if I'm not able to. I still go once a month to Texas. Now, part of that's my family lives in Texas. My mom and dad are there. My daughters are there. So, I intentionally have tried to leverage things. So I take a business trip and hey, I get to visit mom and dad. And but yes, I mean, especially in the world of investing. I mean, you invest in Apple. Well, I don't live in Apple so that I visit their management meetings ever so often, right? I trust in the managers that run the company that are going to do it. So it's, when you're looking at a single family home, it's a little harder, I think, but even that is, it's doable. You want to do it. So,
yeah. And so this is one of the things that, you talk about, and I'm a firm believer, right? And this is part of it. And I just want to highlight that you are also recognizing one of the things, maybe said in different words, but I always believe that if you know what issue you're attempting to solve or what destination you're trying to get to from an investing perspective, it's really about making sure that you're clear on that first and foremost. Then you want to go to the locations that are going to give you the highest probability of being able to achieve that benefit. And then in the same way that you believe, I also believe that it is like you have to have a rock star team, especially when you're not going to live in the location that's going to provide you the benefit. If you don't know it, and I always say you knowing it, meaning you or your team or your team, even better, the team has to be there. And then afterwards, the assets take care of themselves, whether it's land, whether it's, multifamily property, whether it's energy equipment, it doesn't matter. As long as personally, what's there, you're in the right location, you've got a rock star team, the opportunities fill themselves. So it's great to hear you say that as well. Listen, before we get into the going along final three, there is one thing that I want to also talk to you about because you just hit on it, but talk to us about the power of being able to partner and power of being able to network with others and how that's helped you.
Yeah. I mean, so, I'll start back in the corporate world. There's just, you have to have a team, right? And there's formal teams put in place generally in corporations, and they form divisions or regions and all the way down to performance teams. But, in real estate in particular, we took a conscious decision. So when we decided we were going to go into land, we said, okay, let's find a group. Let's find a mentor. Let's find a coach. Let's pay for things, masterminds. This was our full-time, it was intended to be our full-time venture. And so it was worth investing and accelerating our path and leveraging the lessons and the teachings of people that have gone down the path before us. We did the same thing when we stepped into commercial real estate. We said, this is unfamiliar territory. So let's find a group, a mentor, a coach, and let's, join those and interact with as many people as we can to just absorb their knowledge, their lessons, as well as team with and partner with people that understand disciplines we don't. Like, I understand operations, I understand business management, but I don't know the world of legal. I don't know commercial mortgage brokering. I don't know so many aspects of property management. I mean, okay, I'm an operations guy, but I've never really done it in a mass rental space. So, all of those things are just essential. They're doable. I'm a big DIY guy. I believe that I can do it. But do I want to take the time and investment to to do it and to stumble and fumble along the way, or, something as important as this, especially when I'm bringing other investors into a deal, it needs to start out and fire on all cylinders, or as many cylinders as possible, with key partnerships in place. And so I think it's just, it's really an essential aspect of really almost anything, if you think about it, but especially in the world of investing and business.
Yeah, and this is one of the things, once again, I mean, you did a wonderful job there being able to tie in corporate experience, right? Because a lot of times you win in teams, and it's very infrequent that someone starts in a corporation and makes it to the top without being able to effectively navigate and lead teams of people. And so that's also one of the, general management mindset, being able to understand enough about the things to continue to learn and move forward, but also making sure that you have the right specialist, the right attorney, the right commercial real estate broker, et cetera, to be able to detect what's happening and then be able to drive and move things forward. So I appreciate you spending a couple of minutes there on the power of partnerships and networking. And you know what? We got to get into the going long final three, Mike. And the thing is, because you're our special guest, I never ask anybody the going long final three unless you tell me that you're ready. So my question is, are you ready?
100%.
I knew you were going to be 100% ready. So here we go. So we started with you over in the beautiful state of Colorado. I'd like to bring it back to a place where you used to live, over here in Europe, onto this side of the pond, because even though I'm from Columbus, Ohio, this is my adopted home side of the pond now. And so I would love for you to tell us, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or is still on your bucket list to visit?
There's so many.
Only one, Mike. Only one.
Yep. So my wife and I would say, we get asked this a lot, and our go-to answer is Prague. And it's just, for us, it was a magical city to visit. It's such a dense collection of old world. I think it's the only city in Europe that didn't get impacted by the wars. So a lot of the history and culture and everything is still physically intact. But just an amazing city. It's walkable. It's very, very small, and food, drink, people, all that stuff. Love it.
So we got another vote for Prague. Mike, I will tell you my story, not here because I don't want everybody to hear it, but I spent 1 month in Prague in January of 2006. Oh. It was a very cold time, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So awesome. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that, everybody. Yeah, everybody listen. Just Mike and I are going to talk about it. Don't worry. Yes, and don't worry. I'm going to get to question number 2. So here's the thing, Mike. The question number 2, this really has a lot to do with the good fortune that I've had in terms of being able to meet, understand, and gain insight to really successful people. And I consider you to be someone who's very successful, and you've done it globally, and you continue to do that, whether it was a corporate now in your own life. And we've talked about the things that you're doing. And so hopefully, one of the things that I've recognized with people that are very successful is they, unlike most people, when they have a goal in mind and they set a plan, then they go out and they execute that plan perfectly the first time, which is what allows them to actually don't worry, Mike. It's just a joke. Mike is super cool, calm, and collected. He's like, what?
Where is this going, man? I don't execute anything perfectly the first time.
I know, man. I like to have fun. Here. Everybody knows that. Yeah. So of course, the reality is, people don't normally get things right perfectly the very first time. Even people like you and I, who are perfectionists or recovering perfectionists. It's just the reality. And really, the people that are usually making the biggest impact, they make 20 to 50 times more mistakes than most people. A whole lot more mistakes than most people. Yeah. But the reality is, and hopefully you agree with this, the first stuff was a joke, but this is serious. So every single time that those people that are successful, that they make a relevant mistake, every single time, they stop, they learn from the mistake. And then what they do after that is pretty amazing. They go out and they put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place to minimize the probability of that exact same thing happening again. So I don't want you to think about the mistake that you made or any of that kind of stuff. But what I want you to think about is the mistake that you made. What was the lesson that you took away from that mistake because you know that it's going to help to positively impact someone today that's listening or watching us here in the Go Along podcast? What is that one lesson you want to share with us?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the way you phrased it as well, just because I'm not a person that dwells on the past, but I like to learn from it and move on. I don't like to harbor regrets or anything like that. But, for me, one very, very relevant one that I really would like to impart upon your audience or anybody venturing into the world of investing in real estate is it is super critical to know who is leading if it's a syndication, your syndication or your business venture. One of our early mistakes was being so eager to join deals that we would just join deals. And so we were at the, it was fortune and a bit of randomness in terms of, would a deal be successful or not? Because I will say, once you start looking at real estate investments, you will all get the glossy marketing pitches and brochures and the promise of return on your investment. And that's all great. That's on paper. In the real world, as soon as you step into a business plan, just like they say, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Well, you're going to get punched in the mouth. And so it's really critical to know that whoever is leading your deal has the resiliency to go through that, and they're going to meet the challenge with the character and values that you want on your side. You don't want somebody that's going to become defensive or shrink away, or where you want somebody that's going to lean in, that's going to pull a team together, that's going to overcome challenges as quickly as possible. And so today, when we join partnerships, we do as good a job as we can of vetting who is going to be leading that deal. And ideally, I want to personally know them. I want to have a history with them. I want to know, have they been successful, and what same kind of questions? What were their mistakes? How did they overcome them? Those kind of things. And so I have a lot of people reach out. Everybody's looking for equity and investors, and we have a pool of investors. And I won't just step into a deal if I don't know that person. And so, if you're asking me today to join a deal that's going to close in the next weeks or months, I'm not going to do it. Right. But I will start a relationship, and I will start to understand, how are you underwriting your deal and things like that. So, that's a big lesson, because we have had deals go sideways before, and the team has had to come together and replace the lead, whoever was leading, and say, hey, that's fine. We're going to take over and we're going to do things a little differently now. But they're tough lessons, but they're good ones.
I appreciate you sharing that, and really knowing who's leading the deal or the opportunity or whatever it is that you're a part of is something that's really critical. And then also, if someone's running to you at the last minute and this has got to close in the next couple of days, it's probably a pretty bad sign anyway. So I appreciate you imparting that and just helping us to recognize some of the different red flags. So this is going to start to take us home. Question number 3, it's also about filling our minds with knowledge. Mike, help us understand, what is the one book that you would recommend to the Go Along family today?
We've touched on it throughout the podcast, but a really powerful book for me is a book called Mindset, and it's by Carol Dweck, and it's all about a growth mindset. And it's easy to think about in the world of business or investing, but it really touches so many areas of your life, from your relationships to your parenting style to your philosophies on other things. It was so transformative to me. And exactly the point that we talked about earlier in reframing this concept of failure. And it's not failure, it's about growth, And so, highly recommended, great read, no matter in what discipline you're interested in life.
All right, fantastic. So Mindset, Carol Dweck, we're going to include that in the show notes. So don't worry, everybody, just click and you'll be able to find the book. And, I'm thinking about from the very beginning of our conversation and you sharing with us, as you mentioned before, having a mother as a teacher and father as an entrepreneur and being able to see that, when you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. From there, you were able to get into the corporate track, and you were in areas that were in growth mode. You've also lived through, real life situations, end of a marriage, and then also recognizing and saying to yourself, you know what, life presented you with an opportunity. So you took that opportunity, had a chance to go overseas, make a business impact, also had a real life impact, being able to recognize that, come back to the States. And then at that time, you and your new wife were also recognizing that, hey, listen, life started happening again, and it gave you an opportunity. Life presented you with another new opportunity, which was to say, okay, well, now am I going to just get the resume already again and go back and do the things that I've been doing? Or do I really want to find a larger purpose and really start to live out the days that I want to, the days that I never have to feel like I have to take a vacation from, right? And so as you continue to do that, now you've recognized that it's not just about the things that you want to do, but also the other lives that you can impact. And so as you're designing and building your life, as you're in your dream destination and you're continuing to be able to have your business trips and go back to Dallas and do that in a long distance way, being able to continue to maintain family relationships, continuing to network to build new business relationships. These are all positive aspects of your life, Mike, and the things that people are, I know, here part of the Going Long family thinking to ourselves, wow, this is amazing. Like, yeah, Billy, but just ask him the question, man. Like, ask him the question. So help us understand, Mike, all this awesome stuff you've done. Help us understand, how can the Going Long family find out more about you, get in touch with you, as well as know more about what they can do with Deaton Equity Partners?
Yeah, for sure. We're all about helping transform people's lives now, whether they invest directly with us or we just help them with a little bit of wisdom. But we've put together a landing page on our website. So it's DeatonEquityPartners.com/freedom. And that's a one-stop shop for everybody. We have our contact info if you want to email. My wife and I are both up there. We have a few helpful resources if you're interested in land investing and what that's all about. We've got a little teaser on what that's about. Same thing with multifamily. So you can land there, and depending on what your interest level is or your level of engagement, you can pretty much find whatever you want there. So it's kind of something we help just to throw out to people.
All right, fantastic. So we'll make that once again. Don't worry, everybody. Stop freaking out. We'll make it really easy. DeatonEquityPartners.com/freedom. All you have to do is click a link, and it'll be really, really easy. So listen, Mike, I just would like to thank you so much for deciding to invest your time with me and the entire Going Long family. So thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Awesome. So if you give me just a couple seconds, I just want to wrap things up with the Going Long family, and then I'll get you out of here. So listen, Going Long family. I mean, look, Mike, I don't think he could have shared more information, right? He's giving you the things to help you in terms of mindset, help you in terms of being able to take action. He's even giving you a free resource that you can go to his landing page, check it out. And I know that you're going to want to share today's conversation with other people. Share the episode. You know, somebody needs to hear the story that Mike just shared with you, the resources that he has, and also start to take this information and put it into action so that you can gain more practical knowledge. And so while you're doing that and sharing the conversation from today, I'll be here preparing the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Trust that you enjoyed today's conversation. And once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and want to find out more about how we're helping accredited investors to gain their personal freedom even faster, go to firstgencp.com/going long.